wife is not a four-letter word. Wife is often seen as degrading to women, and I certainly had to do my work around the word wife, and now it is something that I embrace. Hello, I'm Karen Seitz, and this is the Happy Wife School. This podcast is for married women to realize that we are responsible for our happiness, that no one and no thing can make us happy, and that our husbands are not the source of our unhappiness. In each episode, I red pill married women to know that we are the problem in our marriages to good men. For the good men, this podcast will wake you up to the realities of your wife's woman ways, to take back the power you've unknowingly given away to her emasculation in a constructive, caring way. Before we dive into today's episode, a couple reminders. My message is meant for common and usual marital issues. My podcast is not intended for abusive, violent, or compulsive behaviors in a marriage that are threatening or dangerous. Also, please take a second to visit my website and learn more about my courses, which offer solutions for married women and good men. You can find the link in the description below. With all that being said, let's get started. I thought today that I would share some of the things, some of the core foundational principles that I have learned in my marriage of how to be a good wife. Wife is not a four-letter word. Wife is often seen as degrading to women, and I certainly had to do my work around the word wife, and now it is something that I embrace and something that is the most important thing to who I am in my life, a role and a responsibility that I take pride in, that I take seriously, and is really a guiding light for me in my life to build myself as a woman of character, a woman of integrity, to really become the best version of myself. The first thing you need to know to be a good wife and what your husband wish you knew: be kind. Nice is not enough. There is a difference between being kind and being nice. And this has been a huge part of my journey because I was someone who was nice. I was a nice wife, a nice person. But what I learned is that nice is not clean. Nice comes with hidden agendas. It comes with calculations, and it comes with expectations and conditions. And so as a wife, I have had to learn, and I teach other women to be kind, which is clean. It's unconditional. It comes without expectations. And that can be very difficult for us as women in our marriage because we play nice to get something back in return, and it is loaded with expectations. And what I think and have learned over the years in my marriage and working with women and men of what your husband wish you knew is that good men are simple. They don't need much from us. In fact, most good men would be happy and fulfilled in their relationship if they got their kind, loving wife 10% of the time. If they just got little crumbs, they would go get the moon and stars and lay them at our feet every single day. A good man made a wonderful comment. I just wish that I had the woman I married who liked to have fun, who was playful, who was open and seemed happy. If I just got her once a week, I would be thrilled. I would be absolutely thrilled. So most good men, they don't need a lot. And being kind is something that when we slow down and we're engaged with ourselves, it's also in our nature as women, underneath our walls, underneath the controlling ways that we have, our selfishness, the protection we build around us. It is in our nature to be kind, but being kind requires us to slow down, to be thoughtful, and actually consider our husbands in a genuine, authentic way. For me, I know that it was very confusing to my husband in the beginning of our marriage. So we've been together 15 years. We've been married almost 10. We got engaged when I turned 30, and we got married shortly before I turned 31. Shortly before I turned 31, we got married. And like I said, I was a very nice person. I did all the right things. I played the role of a good wife. But like I said, that's not enough. And it was really a mind F for my husband, because here I was playing sweet, playing nice, going through the motions of the things I knew to be nice. Yet he often felt wrong. He felt judged. He felt criticized. He felt my expectations in return, and that he could never quite measure up. He often felt that he was in trouble with me, and he was correct in what he felt, because those are my woman ways that I put onto him and put on our marriage, even though I played nice. And it was really confusing to him because I had that facade, and he couldn't figure out, why do I feel so wrong, and why do I feel so judged? And it was very, very confusing to him as a good man. I think a lot of us as women will wear that facade. We will play nice. Then we're confused of, why is he distant, and why doesn't he want to be around me, and why does he withdraw from the relationship? We don't recognize that that's not enough. You can't just play a good wife. It's something that has to be important to you and of value to you, and something that you take seriously as an expression of who you are and the responsibility that you took on when you made the choice to get married. And with that comes being kind. So what we need to know about kindness, if nice is calculated and conditional and comes loaded with expectations of needing something in return, or even nice can come with that false sense of validation for who we are. So we do nice things to look good and to look like a good person and keep up with who we think we are supposed to do or supposed to be. And there's no genuineness in that. So if that's nice, what's being kind? Being kind is having no expectations. It's the things we would do for a stranger or someone in our life without needing anyone to know that we did it. And something that people don't understand about kindness is, kindness, in order for it to be genuinely and truly kind, for it to be clean, to not come with expectations, kindness is something we do for ourselves because of the kind of person we want to be, who we want to know ourselves as, and the standard of which we want to hold ourselves to as people, and being the best version of ourselves. And I know that that can sound selfish, like, well, you can't be kind and do it for yourself, Karen. It doesn't work that way. But actually, when we do kindness for ourselves because of who we want to be and how we want to know ourselves, the character and integrity we want to have as people, the character and integrity we want to have as women, it's only from that place, as an expression of who we want to be, that kindness can be clean and without expectations. We do kindness because and living with character, living with integrity, holding ourselves to that standard makes us feel really good about who we are. And then the other person, in this case, our husband, gets the benefit with no strings attached. And it's only from that place that it can be clean and integrous. When we do kindness for others, we have a hidden agenda, even if it's just to look good. We often have expectations of wanting something in return, and there's no you in it. So it's when we put ourselves into it as an expression of who we are that we can truly, truly be kind without needing anything in return. And as a wife and being a good wife, being kind to your husband is not doing the things for him that you want, or doing things for him that you want to do for him, so he knows that that's what you want him to do for you. Again, that's being nice, that's manipulative and has conditions. To be kind to your husband, it's actually slowing down to think of, what would your husband appreciate? What would be kindness to him? And a wonderful question to ask yourself and being kind is, what would kindness do? And that slows you down. To be kind, you have to be slowed down in yourself. It's not something you can power through and just do and check a box. It's slowing down to be engaged with yourself, to be thoughtful and considerate of your husband, of what would make him feel special, what would make him feel cared for. And doing that as an expression of who you are and the kind of woman you want to be. So it might be something as simple as, if you're coming home from work, slowing down before you walk in the door to make the choice to be in a good mood and be pleasant, regardless of your day, regardless of the challenges or stress that you might have, and leaving it at the door and coming home just in a pleasant, good mood. Or if you're home and your husband gets home, taking that time before he gets home to slow down, recognize that he's coming home, and choose to be in a pleasant, good mood. That is something that would be so kind to do for your husband. It's letting him watch his favorite team on Sunday, letting him watch football and making him his favorite sandwich and bringing him his favorite beer. And then saying, hey, I'm going to head out, enjoy the game. Or, hey, me and the kids are going to head out, relax and enjoy the game. Again, not from a place of needing anything in return, but because of who you want to be. And your husband will just be floored. The last example I have of another kind thing to do for your husband, learning to zip it. Then when we all know the unnecessary comments that we throw out, or the unnecessary nagging, or the unnecessary or unsolicited advice or opinion that we so love to give our husband. Just zip it, leave it out. Not necessary. This sticks out to me. This was a while ago, but I remember coming home one day from work, and I'm in the kitchen, and a dish towel was hanging from the oven, and it was just soaking wet. And the womanness in me would be like, why is the dish towel wet? And I had the conversation with myself, Karen, well, obviously he spilled some water and he used the dish towel to clean up the water and hung it up. Zip it. Not a necessary comment. No one needs to hear that. So simply learning to zip it and hold your opinions, hold your advice. Your husband's a grown man. He doesn't need it. Those are examples of considering your husband and doing things that would treat him with kindness, that he would appreciate and he would enjoy. And again, that caveat is, you have to do it for yourself, of who you want to be. And then your husband gets the benefit. And the best part about kindness, it's really the golden rule. And being married to a good man, their nature and who they are and how they live is kindness and thoughtfulness and generosity. And that can go out the window when as wives, we are emasculating, controlling, nagging, critical, judgmental, shaming. They begin to throw their hands up and like, it doesn't even matter what I do anymore. But when you begin to treat him with kindness, you have to go first. Can't say, well, when he does X, Y, and Z, then I'll be kind. That's not how it works. You have to go first. And when you treat your husband with kindness and not needing anything in return, your husband, as a good man, will treat you with kindness. Likely, he's already still treating you with kindness, because in spite of our woman ways, in spite of how we show up, often, unless it's gone too far and the marriage is too far gone, good men still adore and love their wives in spite of these woman ways that I'm speaking of and share about. So when you treat your husband with kindness, he will treat you with kindness. The second of how to be a good wife, of what your husband wish you knew. Sex is how your husband feels loved and respected. Sex is how your husband feels loved and respected. Your husband is not a woman. He is a man. And sex is incredibly important to a man. And it's where we miss each other and just go totally different ways as husband and wives. That if you ask a good man, what are the top 3 things that are most important to him in a marriage and in a relationship, sex is going to be number 1, if not number 1, 2, or 3. But often it's going to be number 1. If you ask a woman, what are your top 10 most important things to you in a marriage or a relationship? Sex might not even make the list. It might be like number 8, 9, or 10, maybe. So we have to understand it as women that sex is incredibly important to men. And we know that. That's why we use sex as a weapon, and we use sex to manipulate and control. And we all know how we do that and have done that. And what happens is that we begin to treat our husbands like Neanderthals, and that there's something wrong with them, that sex is so important to them. And we want to change them and make them so wrong for just who they are as a man. But you have to understand, when you chose to get married and you made vows and you made a commitment to your husband, you took on the role and responsibility to have sex in your marriage and enjoy it as a part of a healthy relationship. Women need to understand that sex is not an option in marriage, and it is not something that is inconsequential. Sex is part of a healthy relationship and marriage. And this is one of the things I've been reflecting on, because when my husband and I got engaged, I had already started withdrawing and putting a wall up around sex in the beginning of our relationship and dating and leading up to us getting married. We had a very healthy, enjoyable sex life. And then I threw my walls up, and that's very, very common for us as women. And it was a really, really big challenge in even just my early 30s, which is so sad to me now. And I had to learn an important part of my healing in my marriage and through this decade of my 30s. In the beginning was overcoming the walls I had built around sex in my marriage, and recognizing that I couldn't have sex with my husband as a duty or a chore or an obligation. When we have sex from a place of obligation or as a chore, we feel used, we feel resentful, if we're doing what we're supposed to do. That's a wonderful example of being nice, is doing sex to check the box and say done. Maybe I bought myself a week or 2 and then shutting down. That's not okay in a marriage. It's a cruel, cruel way to treat your husband, who is a man, in which this is very important to him. So ladies, let me make it very, very clear. You cannot have a healthy marriage. You cannot have a healthy relationship if you are not having sex with your husband, or you are shut down to sex and doing it as an obligation and a chore. It's not okay. And you can't have a healthy relationship or a healthy marriage from that place. We all know sex is part of a healthy relationship. And here's something that is very important, ladies. We all enjoy sex. If you remember when you met your husband, or before you met your husband and you were dating and having different relationships with men, we couldn't wait. We couldn't wait to get together and meet up for a date and know where that was going to lead. And we can reflect back to the beginning of our relationship, before we got engaged, before we got married, and we were in the newness. We loved and enjoy having sex. We begin to put our walls up in it. I'm not going to get too much into that, but I do want you all to know, trigger warning, we're going to be talking, or I'm going to be talking a lot more about our relationship with sex as women and the importance of it in a marriage, and how to overcome the walls that we have built around it, and how to overcome the withholding of sex that we have put into place in our marriage. And I'm also going to be talking about how everything we've been taught by the experts about sex is wrong. That we are not ovens that need to be warmed up first. We have been fed so many lies and so many myths and so much misinformation about sex as women. And I'm excited to share my journey, because it's been a huge journey in my marriage. One of the things I'm most proud of, and my husband is most appreciative of, that I have healed and overcome in myself. And I'm excited to be sharing that. But that's the number two thing your husband really wish you knew, that sex is how he feels loved and respected, and that it's not an option in marriage. That when we made those vows, that's the commitment we made. It's part of a healthy relationship. And when, as women, we can reconnect with the fact that we enjoy sex too, then it's something we do for ourselves and enjoy for ourselves, that we get the benefit of it and our husbands get the benefit of it. But a key piece is we really do have to remember that we enjoy it, and not have sex for our husbands as something to check off the list just because it's important to them. They can feel that. We have to learn to be there and be engaged and enjoy it for ourselves, which is all our husbands want. And then we don't have the resentment or feeling used or feeling that that's all we're good for, or that's what we're supposed to do. We can be in it for ourselves, and our husbands get the benefit, and you can have a healthy sex life in your marriage, which is a key important piece to being a good wife. The number 3 way to be a good wife, and what your husband wish you knew: accept your husband for who he is, not what he does or does not do. I'm going to repeat that. Accept your husband for who he is, not what he does or doesn't do. So you need to see the essence of who your husband is. Just a simple reminder that my message is for women who are married to good men who at their essence are responsible, hardworking, kind, want their wife to be happy. Most of us married good men because when we were ready to settle down, we stopped chasing the bad boys and we chose a good man. And the essence of a good man and his nature is who you marry. And what we do as women, because of our own unhappiness in ourselves and of all the ways we feel bad about ourselves and all the things that we judge ourselves for, criticize ourselves for, the things we think that are wrong with us, we project that onto our husbands, and we begin to nitpick them apart and focus on all their flaws, all their mistakes, all their shortcomings. And we judge them and we criticize them, and we're constantly trying to change who they are, thinking that will make us happy. It never does. And we lose sight of the man that we married. And you need to understand that you want to accept your husband for the good man and person that he is, not the mistakes and flaws that he has. No one is perfect. And a good man is the first to admit, I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes. I add to the challenges and issues in the marriage. He knows that. But the fundamental difference between good men and women is that a good man, he focuses on the essence of who we are. Like I said, they still often adore us and think we're just wonderful in spite of the emasculation and our woman ways that play out in the relationship. They still see all the wonderful things about us. I see this in my husband all the time. He focuses on all the wonderful things about who I am. That's just their nature. And they have a insatiable want and desire to please us, to make us happy. Yet as women, we have an insatiable desire to point out their shortcomings, their flaws, their mistakes. When they don't do that with us, they don't focus on our flaws and our shortcomings. In a very good way, good men have very short memories, that they focus on the good things in us. And so you want to begin to see the essence of who he is as a good man and stop focusing on thinking that he needs to go to the gym and work out and be more fit, or he drinks too much. I don't want him to drink that much. Or why is he still playing golf and watching football? When's he going to grow up? I wish that he would stand up to his mother and stop being such a wuss with his mother. Or just all the little things that we focus on in their flaws. See the essence and remember the good man that you married, and to know that his heart is in the right place, even when he makes mistakes. And that's all a good man wants, is just to be accepted for who he is and loved for who he is. And when you can do that, and like I said in the beginning, even give him 10% of that, hopefully you can find it in yourself to do more. But even 10% of that, and he will, like I said, lay the moon and stars at your feet every single day. So those are the 3 things your husband wish you knew, the 3 ways to be a good wife: to be kind, that nice is not enough, that sex is important to your husband as a man. It's how he feels loved and respected. And number 3, accept your husband for who he is, not what he does or doesn't do, to focus on the essence of who he is as a good man. And the one thing I want to add to that, when I catch myself judging or being critical of my husband's very playful and very lighthearted. And I can imagine just his giggle. And when he gets giggles and just his sweetness, he's so sweet. And remembering that, knowing that's who he is, and to know I've got plenty of my own shortcomings and flaws, and he doesn't pick at those. He sees the essence of who I am. And so we can return that. So the last piece I want to touch on is there's a caveat. There's a caveat to everything I shared today of how to be a good wife and the 3 things that your husband wish you knew. There's a caveat. You cannot do these things to be a good wife. You can't be a good wife to play a role, to make yourself look good, to wear a facade. It will not work. Your husband feels the difference. You know the difference. And when we wear a facade and we're playing a role, we are not being true to who we are, and we are not giving a genuine, authentic expression of who we are. In order to put these 3 things into practice, to be kind, to have sex and enjoy it and know that that's important to your husband, to accept him for who he is. These are things you must do because of who you want to be. It's counterintuitive to us. You have to do the things that are part of a relationship and part of being a good wife for yourself, because of the kind of character and integrity you want to have as a wife and a woman. Your husband gets the benefit. When we wear a facade, when we play the role, we get exhausted, and it is tiring. And it's a lot of work to keep up the facade. And typically we can't. And the facade can come down very, very quickly once we get married. And then our husbands are like, whoa, what happened to the woman I married? So it doesn't work to do these things from a place of putting an act on. It has to be fundamental to you of who you want to be, and making a commitment for yourself that you made vows and you made a commitment to another person. that you were going to show up. You were going to be your best. You were going to make it through the tough times and go through the challenges and still be there on the other side. So that has to be important to you. If being a wife and having a character and integrity is not important to you, the things I taught and shared with you today will never work. They will never, ever, ever work. And what we need to know is we all know how to be good, kind people. We can do it very easily to strangers, or be a good person at work or at church or out in our community. And now we need to learn to do that and be that genuinely for ourselves as an expression of who we want to be, and choosing to do it because of who you are, how you want to know yourself, and to be a woman of character and integrity. And your husband gets the benefit. If you can't do it from that place, you will be playing the role of a good wife, and it does not work. And that's something that was very fundamental to my growth and changes in my marriage, that I had to realize I couldn't fake it, that it had to be a genuine expression of who I am and who I want to be, and to do that for myself and allow my husband to get the benefit of that. And that's where we have a wonderful dance and a beautiful marriage that just keeps growing and keeps getting better all the time. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen today. If you haven't, go check me out on YouTube, Rumble, and X. You can find the links in the description below to connect with me there. For those women listening who know you are the problem and want a path forward to take responsibility and change your own inner turmoil and unhappiness, I have a course for women called the Happiness Program, which is the solution to the unhealthy relationship you have with yourself and the issues and challenges you have in your life and your marriage. You can find the link in the description below to apply for a free consultation with me. And for the good men listening who want a solution to take back the power you've unknowingly given away to your wife, I have a course for you too, called the Marriage Rescue Course for Good Men Only, that teaches you how to rebuild your strength and confidence as a good man so that you can navigate the relationship with your wife in a healthy, constructive way. Again, you can find the link in the description below to apply for a free consultation with me. Thank you again so much for listening, and I look forward to talking with you soon.